All right, welcome back to the Movie Well Marathon. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Matt.
And we are still on our 80s marathon. We are
Yep.
on Top Gun.
Top
Came
Gun.
out May 16th, 1986. Director is Tony Scott. Starring, of course, Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer, Kelly McGillis, Anthony Edwards as Goose, Meg Ryan, Tom's. I don't fuck. And you're not going to know. We're just going to say they're cool.
Vilmer.
I said Val Kilmer. I said them all.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll just reference their cool uh, pilot names, whatever. Bunch of guys.
Yeah.
I don't recognize. Yeah, Top Gun. This is my first time seeing this movie.
Okay. What are we thinking?
I couldn't shit.
Really?
Look, I know I'm me. Okay, I understand. I get dramatic. I tried very hard to come at this movie because I do have some prejudice going into this. So I needed to catch myself. I don't like Tom Cruise. Part of it. I tried to put that to the side, but every time he smiles and I see this stupid little tooth in the middle of his stupid little head, it's difficult. But there is also, I don't have a great relationship with my dad. My dad loves airplanes so much. So this is just like, I have spent a better part of a decade and a half just not caring, because there's like, it's not that deep, but it is a whole, he loves this movie. Like, this is his bread and butter.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's actually really interesting. The things that I have to talk about with this film are almost all around the way that it presents a masculine culture in a way that is not condemning of softness or affection. And
There is,
for the most part.
well, there is that, but my last little thing was I have nothing I can relate to in this movie because I don't care about being the best in something. I don't care about the bravado that is very much in this movie. No one is criticizing. You're right, and I guess I should have given it more credit in that no one is criticizing the first. What's the first pilot's name? Who gets real shaky.
Oh shoot,
back.
Cougar.
No one is on him. No one is saying that's the moment, and so I should have given that. And no one is on Maverick for having some issues. That no one makes fun of Goose being a family man, which is really cute. So there is that, but it's a peanut butter jelly sandwich where the ridiculous bravado is as equal as the gentle, non-toxic masculine. Because
it's a part of it in the movie's thesis.
Yeah.
It's a part of the same thing.
Yeah, because Maverick still follows a woman that's already him no in the room. You know, like it's just
that's a problem. I labeled that one too.
Yeah. So I could get into more later. I didn't love it. There's not a whole lot that I can vibe with. I have some negative association. I have plenty of positives. I have stuff I can say. But I will say my vibe is not one. Yeah! Ooh, Top Gun. Ooh. So if you'd like to lead, go right ahead.
Yeah. No, a quick overview for me is I don't think Top Gun is ever going to make it into like a favorites film list for me, but I will watch it whenever it's on because I do think that it's a good film. Like if I were to stumble across it while channel surfing, if we were to ever do that anymore, I would stay on that channel and I would wait through the commercials for it to watch it. Like I enjoy watching the film. Yes. And I think that comes. I mean, okay, so there's a couple things you do have to kind of recognize. Like, this is obviously like a military propaganda sort of thing. Like,
yes, it is. Hardcore.
And, like, for sure, that element is here, and we should probably be critical of that element.
I mean, at least a little. Go on. Yeah, go on.
The way that the movie presents the conflicts and the situations of the soldier is it's very human. They are not supposed to sacrifice everything they are supposed to be the best that they can be because they're being challenged, but they're not necessarily expected to lose themselves. In fact, when they do lose themselves, the people around them are doing their best as a network to keep them grounded and to bring them back to themselves. When Maverick, this jumps kind of straight to the quick of it, but when Maverick loses Goose, um, everyone around him tries very hard to communicate to him, like, this was not your fault. And it's not his fault. It's not like they're lying to him. He something awful happened while he was kind of in charge. You know, he was driving the plane, flying the plane, and he lost a person he really cared about. Everyone knew he really cared about him. Everyone knew that it mattered to say, hey, what happened is not your fault and you shouldn't feel guilt for it. But no one ever told him to not be sad about it. No one ever told him to just suck it up and fly anyway. They did get him back in the saddle, but that's because you have to confront those feelings if you're ever going to overcome those feelings. And so that was a part of them trying to help him as well. So, like, this whole film ends up being, in my opinion, pretty pro-social. Like, it's about the healthy connections between people and how those healthy connections can actually drive us to become good versions of ourselves. He's not able to, like, sort of settle into what he's supposed to be until he knows what happened with his dad, and until he kind of is able to come to terms with the fact that what he's doing is going to, like, he's going to lose people in his job, you know. And the moment with, like, Goose's tags in the plane where he's like, you know, I need to feel something from you. This friendship with Goose is stronger than death in this film. And that is kind of a really cool thing to put in a film about these sorts of things. It's also a film that doesn't overfill itself with battle. I mean, yeah, we have flight, a whole bunch, but most of the flight that we get, like almost all of the flights that we get, are training. And it's about improving your skills and trying to be better than the guy next to you. And it all ends up being, I mean, they're in the military, they're training to fight other planes and shoot them out of the sky and kill people. But it ends up being very camaraderie oriented. It's about them, you know, improving together. And even the foil for Maverick's character, Iceman, um, they're setting up a conversation about the way that humans negotiate between surrendering individuality and desire and friendships, and the way that we also fight for those things. Like, Maverick is very human, Iceman, as suggested, is very sort of chill and professional. He's like what you would normally expect the poster boy of the military to be. But the movie follows Maverick instead and suggests that only when they work together can they accomplish the job. So, like, there's I think there's a lot of really cool storylines and themes happening in this film that we wouldn't normally get in a military movie that's just about, you know, a soldier's situation. This is a complex story about sort of self-discovery and what it is to be human in a lot of ways. And I think what it is to be a man. I feel less confident in my analysis on those things because I'm just not familiar with that realm. But there is like, you know, I can get a female perspective
Same.
really easy.
Same
Um,
though. I mean, same.
it just, there's clearly a message about, like, what it means to be a man, and it doesn't flinch from the emotion of that. It doesn't. I mean, the grossest thing that happens is that he kind of pursues a woman more than he should, but his opening line is to embarrass himself doing karaoke, and all his friends
I
support
hated
him.
that scene. It was so
Like,
fucking cringe.
it was cringy, but the fact that he did it was like, he didn't, like, come up and objectify her. He made himself a bit of a joke to make her comfortable interacting with him.
That
Like,
would not
there's
make anybody comfortable. That's
no.
so, no. You got the whole bar singing to you. That's so uncomfortable. You put the whole
Me.
attention. Oh, okay, fine. It made her
I don't know.
comfortable.
I feel like Well, I don't know. That I could see how that would be debatable, but she's clearly not bothered by it. So
Fair, yes.
there's
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
there's I think something very human happening in this film that I do like watching. And I like that this is a military film that embraces their soldiers being people. Like Cougar is like even to the point where like Cougar leaving is respected. They miss him. They don't really want him to do it because he's a very good resource. He was going to go to Top Gun. He was a really good pilot, but he chooses to go back to his family. He's like, I couldn't orphan them. And I'm like, that's a wise, smart choice. And the film is presenting it as such. And Maverick even later defends him. But later, when Maverick is thinking about leaving, he's thinking about leaving because he's scared and he wants to quit. He doesn't have anything he's running to. All the stuff that he cares about in his life is invested in this program and what he's doing. He could establish a life outside of it if he wanted to, but the only reason he's running is because he's running away rather than running to something. And so they put him back in the saddle and he's able to reestablish himself and become more confident, become what he needs to be. Like there's a lot of really good storytelling happening in this that I do enjoy watching.
I may have to watch it again someday and consider that because I walked away with a very different aftertaste. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how, and I guess I can't exactly argue with most of that. Like maybe I wasn't giving the human angle credit. I walk away feeling it's very shallow. And
Really?
yes, because for one, so Maverick is the hot-headed ace pilot, got the good instincts and the skills, but doesn't care about the rules. But
Mm-hmm.
he keeps being told, "Hey, don't do this because you're gonna get someone hurt or you're gonna get kicked out." And he keeps doing it, and there are never any consequences. And I don't love that. I think that hurts the believability of it a tad. I don't like that Ice is presented as an antagonist just because he follows the fucking rules. Like I don't like that this movie is putting me in a place where I'm defending the military man because the rules they're
That's what I
presenting
read.
yeah, well like the rules they're
I was
presenting
surprised.
yeah, I am too. But like the rules they're presenting aren't unreasonable. Like the way Ice talks
Mm-hmm.
about why like if you're up there and you've got someone like Maverick who's doing Maverick
Mm-hmm.
shit. And why I don't like it is he keeps breaking the rules. Nothing is done to him. There are no consequences. He learns nothing. And then the one time he follows the rules is when Goose dies. And we don't really reflect on it in that way. We don't think about it in how the one time he did everything right, someone died. There's an angle to that you could explore, but I honestly really think that should have been the consequence. He should have
Mm-hmm.
like it should have been his fault. And even if the court martial found that it wasn't through some sort of technicality, when he blames himself, it shouldn't be survivor's guilt. It should be his fault. And he needs to
Mm-hmm.
learn he can't he needs to find the line between when it's okay to risk things because he doesn't in this. He doesn't learn anything. And that bothers me because watching the movie, it seemed like Act One, half of Act Two, the goal, the drive, they made it to Top Gun. Title of Top Gun doesn't matter at all in this movie. At all. They do 2.5 like training things. We don't see him learn anything. We don't see him practice anything. We don't see him research anything. It's all about him and Charlie. This ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
Disney movie romance, which is gross. And like I just didn't care about that. I wanted to see him learn to be the best of the best. And that's
Mm-hmm.
nothing. They set up Iceman as the best of the best, and that's that's the goal. We want to beat Iceman. We don't put any work into beating Iceman. There's a billion movies before and after this of I gotta keep doing it. I gotta push harder. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. Maybe I don't consider this angle that Charlie has to offer. Maybe I didn't think about this that someone else does. Maybe can't beat him, join him, learns a trick from Iceman. Something. None of that. We have one class where Charlie is showing some sort of 1985. I could not tell you for the life of me what's happening. I don't know how any of them can either. We have First Flight with Jester, where he does the cool break thing that comes back, and that's fun. Then we have tests that he like bails on, and then we have the test where Goose dies, and then we have the one with Viper. I'm just saying, I was keeping track of it. An hour and a half in, we've been in the air twice, like 2.5 times. Top Gun is the thing. I don't think we get enough Top Gun. I just don't. Maybe that's unfair, but that's what I was wanting. That's what I was expecting. I was like, because the movie opens with all this jet porn, and it's beautiful, like the flight cinematography, the up in the air thing, the inverted moment. Like I'm pretty sure they did that. Like I'm sure they did that for real. That's a selling point. They're doing all this cool shit, you know. And I don't like planes. I don't like the movie. I'm in it for that stuff. This is awesome.
Interesting.
Keep doing that. Let's see what we can learn. Cause like, tell me one thing that they learned in Top Gun. Because I don't think they ever even say out loud something they learned in Top Gun. Because the thing that Tom Cruise does at the end of the movie is not something he learned in Top Gun school. It's just an idea he had. That's not something he had to do. That's not something that he was supposed to do. That's an example of his instinct coming back. But that whole end fight scene should have been filled with shit that we learned at Top Gun. And we don't. And I just didn't like that because it put way too much time and energy into this relationship with Charlie. Like, come on, girl, you're better than that. Like you already said, you meet 100 of these fuckwits a week or every 8 weeks. But this one, because he's more persistent, I don't believe that the other ones weren't persistent. And the other ones had teeth that were symmetrical. So you could do better. So that bothered me. And it does, I don't like that they kill Goose. Because there's a version of this where like is the military, real world, like die. And we just have to deal with it. I don't think it's handled because the cocky asshole doesn't kill him. Whereas probably should. And it was something to. And then if for some reason he doesn't graduate Top Gun, Pixar style, the thing we're working towards, the thing we're expecting doesn't happen, but he's still allowed to fly, and Iceman is the one that invites him to be man for that fight because he knows it's good and he's gonna answer something. There's something there, and I don't know. I don't like that he throws the tags in the ocean. I think we gloss over Goose way too fast. For it to be as significant as it was in that moment, I don't care what Viper says about having to just completely leave them behind. Don't tell me you just leave them behind when the death of Maverick's dad has still affected you in one way or another, where you keep giving this motherfucker chances. Like, it has affected you. Everyone's connected to their friends. Everyone loves their friends.
I do feel like that throw things in the ocean scene that occurs in a lot of movies that shouldn't occur in. This is one of them. I would agree with you because I feel like, again, even the moment where he like sort of is able to find himself is about finding Goose too, or at least that's how I read the moment. It's possible that he like doesn't hear anything and so he decides to just do what he wants to do. But I think that what I get out of that moment is he feels like his connection to Goose is telling him to just be himself. And so it's through his relationship with his friend that he is lost that he's able to reestablish himself and ultimately be the hero of the day, right? And then he goes and throws the tags away. I'm like, it feels like that would be a memento that you keep with you rather than throw it away because you found your confidence through it. But whatever. I also feel like, I don't know, I think kind of stepping back to what you were saying, I'm getting the sense that you came in with a lot of expectations and you're kind of just like reacting to the fact that your expectations weren't met. You're like, this is the fly plane movie, so I should see the whole thing being about flying planes. And like, you're not wrong. It is absolutely advertised as the fly plane movie. But when you ask people what they like about Top Gun, they're going to tell you two things. They're going to tell you the music, and they're going to tell you that they like the story. And like, that's Top Gun is, it's one of those things that's like, it's kind of funny, especially when you think about it from kind of like male audience perspective. It's packaged as this action packed, maybe kind of shoot 'em up style film, like come see planes do cool tricks. But then when you're actually in it, it gives you a story that focuses on human connections and honestly kind of explores like human identity a little bit. And I like that. I think I will give you that it probably takes a minute to adjust to, but I enjoy that the film is not just learn how to fly a plane better. I like that it is about what happens in the times where they're off duty, so to speak. Um, and I don't know, I like that we're following the character development of our guy, and then it turns out that he ends up being a static character because that's kind of like what they're writing in the film. What they're writing is about that tension between the rules and the individual. And they decide not necessarily that the individual is always right, but that the individual has a place in this kind of environment. And I think that's interesting. I don't necessarily agree, like, if I were to write out a thesis on what humans should do or be, especially in the military, I might end up with a different answer. But I find it interesting that this film would present that question.
Very intrigued because if I had to pick a movie that explored humanity, Top Gun wouldn't make the top 30. It's
I'm
interesting
not
that
saying it's the best, but that's clearly what it's doing instead of
I mean,
fly plane.
well, yeah, but see, I think that's a fault of it.
I don't want it to be just another action flick because then it would be nothing. It would be
I,
a bunch of fun plane shots with music.
I,
And why not just do a music video if you're going to do that?
sure, but see, I feel like I went into the movie with negative expectations. Check myself to have no expectations, and then the whole kickoff, the send off, the excited moment is that we made it to Top Gun. That
Hmm.
has almost no bearing on barely great. Um, so I
I,
feel like I
I
followed the
think I
expectations that the
think
movie
that's a
set for me.
well, okay. That's kind of what I'm saying though. Like this is a movie that is intentionally setting you up for an idea and then making you realize that that is not as essential as you were thinking. Like it's an intentional sort of twist, I think. I don't think it's an accident or like a slopshod script where they're like, we're going to take the story is going to take place at a naval flight school and it's going to be about the best pilots ever and we're not going to follow their training because they clearly do a ton of research into how to accurately present a school like this. And if they had wanted to focus their stories on the lessons, they could have, but they instead made the intentional choice to follow the personal aspects of what would be happening in that time and how the personal aspects of the character impact the things that are happening in the flight school. And you, again, this is why I think it takes maybe a watch or two, but you as an audience member have to adjust to what the movie is telling you in order to see what it is telling you. If you sit there and you're like, you're supposed to be plane movie, why aren't I learning about planes? You're gonna miss what the movie is giving you. The movie, like I think at the very beginning, they set this up with Cougar perfectly, where we watch some guys do some flying things. It's very cool. Somebody gets caught in the crosshairs. In most plane fighting movies, that guy dies, right? Or at least gets shot down. Instead, he doesn't die. but he does have a permanent psychological effect from being caught in the crosshairs that people end up respecting his choice to leave because of. Like, that's the first signal that this film is going to focus on the human element rather than the like aggression, violence element. And I think if you follow the cues the movie is setting up, you know that sure, we're doing this with the setting of the Top Gun school, but we're actually focusing on the human like element of the characters who are living these situations, not what they would write their biography about, not how they would talk about how they earned all their medals, but we're talking about the stuff that they actually really care about, the stuff that they're fighting for, so to speak. And I liked that choice. I felt like it was a choice that was unusual in a film like this. And I felt like they actually did a pretty good job of bridging those two worlds when it came to the thematic element of it.
I guess where I'm struggling currently then, I agree that that's better and would be good. I didn't get the vibe that that's what they were doing because the
Hmm.
movie doesn't spend a lot of time. I would like what I would prefer a character like Goose. We spend a shit ton of time Maverick and Charlie when we're in our off time. Or,
I agree that the second act of the film is very heavily Maverick and Charlie. I would cut back on that
yeah,
in
if we
if
want to
I
talk
were
about
in
what we're
charge.
fighting for, I don't even know Goose's kid's name. Maybe that's on me. That could be entirely on me. But I never even caught it if it is, you know? And it's cute that Uncle Maverick is too. But like, if we're going off of we're spending time with the human element and what is important, then we should not be seeing this from Maverick's eyes. Because all we're doing up until Goose dies is pursuing what we want. But everyone's doing it. That's what Charlie does. Always gets doing it. She's motion and she's learning about the MIGs. Maverick is going for the best spot and he's going after Charlie and gets it. That's all they're doing.
Mhm.
They're not spending time exploring the human element, exploring what it is fighting for. Because love the relationship ever is better. It shouldn't be them. It's ridiculous. It's all just I can't think of a good because know
Are you
each other.
entirely are you entirely critical of Maverick and Charlie's relationship?
Yes, because there's not a single reason to believe in the genuineness that is supposed to be Maverick's approach to Charlie. We have to be told by another character, fully breaking the Bechtel test because they're talking about Maverick, that Maverick is into Charlie. Why? Why is she different? We're told that he is a ridiculous player, all over the place, constantly, all the time. But somehow Charlie's different. Why? They don't elaborate. We don't explore. We don't spend any genuine time with him. He's just doing the thing he does. He's just being him. And there's nothing that is made clear about Charlie that is different to him. If anything, her being an instructor just adds to the forbiddenness of it. And so much of their conversation, just she's attracted to him, but wants to know about the MIG. Then they start having just more playful, flirty talk. She mimics what wife says, when lunch. Like, and it doesn't matter to him enough to even say goodbye to her when he leaves. Their relationship is ridiculously shallow because it's at most 7 weeks old, and they didn't. So I don't know why we're spending time on it if we want to limit. Like
I
the
mean, there.
best human interactions we have are with Goose, and then later
Uh-huh.
the moment with Viper at his cookout thing about his dad.
Sure.
Like that's necessary. We need to know, and that's important, and it's a good
But
moment with him.
Maverick opening up to Charlie is a part of that arc. Like inviting her in and getting to know her and like being vulnerable. I mean, like their first date is dinner and they talk about their personal lives and their histories and then he leaves.
I guess,
That's not
but that seems
I
very.
like
It doesn't.
so there's definitely a sort of like 80s film element to this romance. there's an element of forbiddenness that we would generally find inappropriate today. But they have flipped the power dynamic. Like she kind of sets the pace on the relationship. And then she also like there's a kind of suggestion that they both had at least several opportunities to have a partner, and yet for some reason this partner is different. That's set up for both of them. And then there's a sort of clear, like every time Maverick does something that she doesn't approve of, she checks him on it, and he appreciates that check to the point where it's kind of ridiculous, where she chases him down in the car and she's like, we weren't finished with our conversation.
He does not appreciate
And
that check.
maybe not, but he could have called it off. You're right. It's not that old of a relationship, and he does not. Um, and also, I can't help but think he would at least respect it in some regard, seeing as what he does and what he loves.
See,
Um,
that I think that's an example of this movie doing what you value from it that I don't. That annoys me. That conversation was going to be an argument over him doing something wrong from a class setting that we could explore
mhm.
and elaborate as to why. And she was not wrong to check him. It's immediately flipped when she says that she's fallen for him. Start kissing and making. We never address it again. Never. We never come back to it.
Yeah, I do think that there is a question for me about where the film sits on Maverick's like craziness, like his individuality, his wildness, the inability to just do what everybody else is doing. Um, I don't have a solid feeling about it though,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that this film is doing something in a much more interesting way. Because like, you're right, in a traditional setup like this, our crazy individualist character needs to learn to be a team player, and so he has to face some consequences for his craziness, and then he has to shape up. Right? That's the plot we're familiar with. But this film is suggesting that like there are times where the crazy guy actually needs to set the pace, or at the very least, he needs to be allowed to be crazy. And in situations like the military, when you have a very specialized skill set in a very particular thing that is new, it is often the crazy ones that don't follow rules that we use for this, not because you have to be the kind of person that doesn't follow rules in order to do well, but because those are the people who learn how to do the new things. They try stuff that's dangerous, even though they're in a plane that's millions of dollars that's paid for by taxpayers, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think there, and again, none of what I'm saying necessarily guarantees that Maverick is in the right for what he does. I think Iceman's position is equal to Maverick's position, if maybe not a smidge higher in like the sort of respectability standpoint. But I hesitate to condemn this movie for presenting the conflict the way that it does, because I don't want all of our stories to just be every single individual who's doing something crazy needs to shut up and do it the way everyone else is doing it. And there are several movies that will flip this, where it's like you're too busy following the rules, you need to just do what you're doing, like Into the Spider-Verse, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there needs to be space for this third kind of movie where we don't necessarily say what is morally right or good. It's just like, here's how these people are, and here's something that we encounter. People have difference of opinions and conflicts and things, but as annoying as it might be, sometimes that really talented person just needs to be really talented and break some of the rules. Like, I know that sounds
I'm not against that. Like, no,
dangerous,
it's like I there's lots of
but
movies that do that, and I can agree with that. It's just there's still something about because the movie is not being explicit that either. It's implied.
every single time he's in a classroom, he's told that he needs to stop doing the
Yes,
things that he's
but
doing.
no one ever comes back around to the Christopher Pike JJ Star Trek. Sometimes we need someone who breaks the rules. Some of those and we need to expand whatever. We don't have anyone who's really aware of that. They even like those the Viper and Jester even talk about, like he's he's great at what he does, but would you want him up there with you in a war? And Jester's like, I don't know. You know, they don't have the
Mm-hmm.
whole like, yes, you know, wars are led by men who know when to break the like. We're not even
Mm-hmm.
exploring that. The generals are not the legacy pilots. If they feel very real to me, the world feels very real to me. The fact that they shot so much of this practically, which is why it's so beloved, it's very real to me. The human element, while necessary, I think is undercut by how 80s movie the love story is. And the realest guy is the one they kill. And I think there's something that is lost with, again, the time he follows the one time everything goes shit. That's not why he leaves. That's not why he's scared. That's not why he's shaken. If it is, they don't explore it. And you have that moment with Viper where it's like smack smack. Sometimes you just gotta break the rules. Be yourself. Don't fall. Go be you. Get back in the saddle.
You're
Like
basically saying that you think the movie needed to be
I
more explicit with this theme.
with something. I think that the movie doesn't commit to what to like anything fully. Like there's a switch here or there that just needs to be thrown. Like
Do you think your movies need to have a thesis?
I think a movie with this much effort put into it and a movie that is this grounded should have a thesis because it can, because it's coming from a place that's
So
very
interesting.
real, and
For
because
me, a story that is grounded is a story that does not necessarily have like a moral lesson to teach because
I
so much of life is not
well,
something to easily drag a moral out of.
sure, but I think any movie that's gonna, if you're gonna argue that the essence of the movie is the human element, there should be a thesis, at least a little bit, or at least more attention to detail when you're
To
writing.
me, if there is an argument in this movie, to me, the argument is that you should prioritize your personal life over your job.
Sure,
Without with like not in the same way
but
of like you should quit your job because of your
but
personal life, but in the sense that like you like this is like so many times when we watch a soldier story, we get like a sweet little picture of their sweetheart back home, or we'll get like the flashbacks to the wife or whatever. This is a story that puts those relationships front and center in a military environment, and I think that's intentional. They even undercut the military element because they prioritize so much in the romance. Now, I will give you the romance is 80s, but I think they do things in this romance that your stereotypical 80s romance does not do. Like, let's be real, this romance is way better than any kind of romance we see in the Breakfast Club.
yeah. Well, only because they write Charlie being comfortable with the fact that a stranger followed her into the bathroom. That's not great.
That bit,
That's
that's not
comparable.
great.
That's comparable to levels of bad of Andy and what's her name, um, Marie,
Claire.
Claire. No, Claire is the redhead. Um,
Oh, is that not
uh,
who you?
uh, Andy ends up
Allison.
Allison. Is that her name? Allison.
Yeah,
Andy ends up with Allison. Bender ends up with Claire. Um, but yeah, okay.
Allison.
So yes, okay, yes. I understand. I'm missing something about the human element. I totally get that. However, I can't abide by the movie's thesis possibly being they're saying put your personal life over your career because the only aspect of his personal life is telling him to get back in the saddle. That's the
Yeah,
point
okay.
of the end of the movie. So I don't think
I
the
phrased it
movie.
wrong.
Well, I see where
I
you're
phrased
coming
it
from.
wrong.
I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
movie doesn't know what it's saying because it's torn between being a grounded human story and a sensational action film. Because Viper is saying one thing about moving on from your friends. Maverick is gaining something from not moving on from his friends and then throwing the tags in the ocean, signifying that he's moving on from his friends. It's this weird back and forth that I'm just not super fond of when we're not in the air. Because when we're in the air, cool shit's happening. Honestly,
That's
60
so funny.
60% of the time, I don't know what's happening, but they filmed it really, really successfully. And for 1986, that gets points. I can acknowledge that. That's really awesome.
So what you're saying is that to you, the best part of the film is the military propaganda.
What I'm saying is that the best part of the film is the technical skill of the pilots in this movie.
The
Because
filming is really impressive.
because without it, this is a really, really, really boring movie. Because it's just a hothead guy with a motorcycle meeting a lady and they fall in love. That's it. That's it. Nothing else is happening because we don't care about Top Gun class. We're not risking anything. Like, his personal life is never put on the line. He doesn't have to pick between it like other movies, like Jump In, deep cut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just nothing happening, really, without the flying. Because we don't care about anything else that's happening. The only timeline that's given to us, we don't care about. The only goal that we are given, we don't care about. So
I'm gonna go ahead and suggest that this is maybe a personal element for you because I care about the characters' relationships and their families, and I don't think that's just because I've watched the film
plural?
before.
Plural? Where are you getting
Yeah,
the plural? We only have one family and we kill him
I
off.
care. I care about Maverick. I care about his relationship with Goose. I care about Goose. I care about
I
his
care about
connection with his
Goose.
family.
I care about
I
Goose's
I care
family.
about I care about Charlie and their developing relationship with Maverick because it's interesting. It's not executed great. The one thing, honestly, I can keep a lot of it. I think the one thing that kind of crosses the boundary for me is that bathroom moment. That goes too far. But the rest of it, I think, is kind of negotiable, kind of like it's context dependent. There are a couple of times where he gets prioritized over her. Like we don't really hear anything about her family, even though we hear about his family. And in the perfect world, that would be balanced. But this is also a narrative story where one of them is clearly the main character, and we like this is something that happens in romantic things in films. But like granted, it does happen to women more than it happens to guys. But if it were to be flipped, I would not be surprised if she talks about her dad and he doesn't talk about his, right? Like because she's the main character in that scenario. So there's an element, I think pretty much everything that happens in this story, in this romantic relationship, aside from the bathroom moment, which I do agree is creepy, is actually pretty good for the 80s. And ends up being like clearly there is a balanced power dynamic between the two of them, even though that's kind of weird. Um, she is interested in him as much as he's interested in her, and you're reacting to the fact that he has this sort of like pickup approach that is a little bit aggressive, absolutely, but he doesn't like. There are at no point does she flat out shoot him down, and he becomes threatening. The closest we come to that is the bathroom scene, and that's I've already said I don't think that's
No,
appropriate.
you're right. You're right that he doesn't get as creepy as Rocky does. First Rocky. I've referenced that before, but that's just I don't like that, and
Mhm.
that's around the same era. But there's a movie I can't place it now. We talked about recently, and I can't remember what. And it was you had made a point about how the women characters just lose something, how quickly they come to the defense of their men characters. It's so close. It's on the tip of my tongue. I cannot recall what it was. I don't know if it was one we've watched for the marathon. All we have is Red Dawn.
I mean, we definitely talked about this with Breakfast Club a
Was
little
it
bit,
Goonie? No, it
but
wasn't Goonie. It was a little bit like something else where I can't remember what it was. But I thought, see, when she drives through the red light, I was like, oh, Mac's gonna clock that. because this character that's been presented to us, she's a military style instructor. She's an astrophysicist or something,
Mm,
aerodynamics professor. She's looking for a job in Washington, and because she's got the hots for Tom Cruise, she's willing to risk her whole demeanor changes. She's complete
no,
like her judgment is
you've
completely out
missed.
there.
You've completely missed subtext. She is playing the game the moment she enters the screen. She is the like she would have, if she had reason to, she would have pulled that driving moment for anything. Like, it's not
Ugh.
just because she's crazy about him. I'm convinced of this. She's presented as a Maverick character. She's supposed to match his vibe. And
It
she's
matches his
not
vibe.
military. She's not military. She is
Well,
a
yeah, I know
contractor.
she. Yeah, they don't
So,
salute her. It's like, but yeah, but she's working for.
yeah,
She's got a certain
she's working
demeanor.
in the military, and she does technically have like an authority over them because she's their instructor, and she mentioned that she doesn't date students, so that the exception for Maverick is a little movie magic-y, little 80s. I'm not crazy about that, but there are like, this is like a real life thing. Like, there are perfectly stable relationships that come out of a dynamic like this, and like, it's not, she exists to be a love interest 100%. But I do not think that she is a battered love interest. I do not think that she loses individuality or personality because of the role she plays in the story. Anytime she's there, it's because she would want to be there.
Yeah, okay, but after the whole car thing, after we leave that class, doesn't she's not in a single scene that's ever anything other than being his girlfriend.
I do notice that. Yeah, we definitely lose some of her as the instructor. In a perfect world, she would have we would have had more like working scenes with her. Most of the scenes with her do center around Maverick, and that is, I will give you, a bit of a problem.
I will concede that yeah, she's written right away. Sure, that comes from a place where I just very hard to find. That's the story. That's
You
fine.
also don't like Tom Cruise.
No, I
I had
don't.
to deal with that when I was watching the John Wicks. I Nothing against Keanu Reeves. I think he's a perfectly fine dude. I just don't really like watching him act.
I don't like Tom Cruise because of who he is as a person.
I understand
You just
that.
don't like Keanu Reeves for some reason, and he's a great guy.
He's a perfectly fine guy. I just don't think he acts well. It's
Oh,
painful. So anytime that he
oh.
was interacting with people on screen, I was like, I had to kind of see past
One
that.
of
And
your
it was,
favorite comic book characters is Batman. It's the same
no,
thing.
dude, I actively dislike Batman.
You love the Bat family. You gotta have
I
Batman for
like
the
the
Bat family.
Robins.
Okay, fine.
I like the Robins because they're intentionally pointing out
Okay,
how grimdark
fine. I
Batman
was
doesn't need to
wrong.
be.
Okay, fine. I was wrong. I will say four things, real.
Go for it.
It deserves a rewatch with this conversation. It's technically, as in like technologically, very impressive. I'm glad I watched it. It's a classic that I've been. I love the code name. It's so much fun.
Mm. Hmm.
But beyond that, see the substance you see. That's why it's worth a
Mm.
rewatch. But you walked away with way more nutritional value than I did. And I got on Rotten Tomatoes expecting to see that and was surprised to find
Hmm.
that the more critical reaction was mine. Like, it's
Hmm.
technically considered rotten, and the main blurb is exactly what I ended up. Light stuff is awesome. When on the ground, there's nothing happening. The audience score
Yeah.
higher, of course. But interesting. I don't have many
I
movies
do
like
think
this.
there's an element of this film that it absolutely could have bombed in the theaters if it weren't for like a couple of things. I think the filmography with the flight and everything is a big part of it. I think the music is another big part of it. And then I think, yeah, that opening, very good. And I also think that there's really good performances happening. This is one of the few movies where I actually do like Cruise in his role. Um, he's not the best actor in the movie, but he does a good job with this character. He presents the highs and the lows, and you can see the acting happening. I like that the filmography, the style of shooting highlights the actor's work. You know, like for a film that, half the time is spent spending a lot of money shooting airplanes. We also spend a lot of time just putting people in tough situations and then letting them emotionally react to those situations. Like that's good. Um, a lot of modern films just kind of like skip that step, or they make it really ingenuine. Um, but I still think there's a really good chance that had this not had good music and cool plane flying, I think it could have bombed. I don't necessarily think that means it's a bad film. For me, this is the actual content, nutritional value, as you called it, for this is going to be something that the average viewer actually doesn't like. To me, this is a little bit of medicine in like the sweet. This is someone has snuck a little bit into their crazy action film. And I think that's why I enjoy it because it is not what I expected and yet executed pretty well. Like the intentional parallels from the beginning to the end are consistent and structured well to say something about the themes that are happening in the story. And I will admit, the first couple times I watched it, especially because I was younger, I was bothered by the lack of conclusion. Like Maverick doesn't learn a lesson, or there is no certain like, he doesn't even win Top Gun.
But
Um,
he goes back to
but
teach, which I think is best.
mhm, why?
Him ending up there for Top Gun Maverick 20 years later, awesome. But like, I think it's a little bit. I know they say it in the class; those who graduate have the option to come back, but like, just barely graduate. Like, and you're just gonna go like, I don't know, go on some.
To
I
me, that was him choosing a life with Charlie.
I can't help but feel though a little bit weird being taught by a guy who is only 8 weeks ahead of me at Top Gun, the best school in the whole wide world. Stuff, you know? Like there's an element
Well,
to that I didn't dig.
that's fair. I think maybe the end of the film was trying to make that closed loop maybe a little too fast. I can give you that.
Yeah, because like the
Um,
sequel, if I'm assuming what the
mhm.
sequel is, where like Maverick is now Viper, that makes perfect total sense, and I am way more intrigued to watch the sequel. And I want to see what he's like in that role. But this idea that that's all he's done the last 20 years, he wasn't, I guess, healed. Like, and like, I feel like exploring the sequel and finding out he did choose a relationship with Charlie, but also did what he wanted to do. He didn't win Top Gun, but he's still,
Mhm.
great pilot and did all these missions, whatever. And he's regarded as the best. Maybe no one even remembers Iceman and this. I don't know. I don't know anything about the second one other than
Doesn't that enhance the human element though? Like this is a guy who at a critical moment in his career had a personal moment where he could not continue. Like no one would blame him for being even like leaving. And he goes through the struggle. He misses his opportunity to earn some grand prize, but he ends up still being the person that everyone knows and appreciates.
sure. I just don't think that's enough to warrant him being an instructor at.
I him being young as an instructor at Top Gun is strange. It is strange. I
So
think the movie was trying to be a little like happily ever after, perfect ending with it. Um,
I think there's a version of
there's also
that.
a chance.
Well, I think there's a version of that where like they don't include that dialogue in first
Mm,
scene in class, and Tom Cruise of Maverick talking to Viper,
mm,
and he's like, I don't really know what I want to do. I don't think I can do this. And Viper's like, well, I have an opening. And he's like, he's the guy they have to go up against. He's not the instructor. He's the test, the crazy wild card that
Mm-hmm.
the new students have to beat. Like that's something,
Most
and that's
of
there's a
the instructors play that role, if I understand
yes,
correctly.
but see, I think that's because we don't spend enough time exploring what Top Gun as a lesson, like because Viper and Jester are elaborating on why and how to do these things, but because Maverick is
Mhm.
Maverick and he just goes off of instinct and improvisation, he can't do that to other students, which is why he's Ghost. They go out there, it's a top quiz at Top Gun. They have to figure out how to deal with Maverick. Like something like that. But the idea of him teaching a class alongside Jester and Viper, that doesn't make any sense at all.
I think you're overthinking it, if
Oh
I'm
my
being totally
god.
honest.
Why is
Like
it there's movies that like I spend no
I
time thinking
already
about?
conceded. I already conceded that it is a quick kind of
Okay.
forced ending, and yet you still take further issue with it. I think it makes sense this character would want to become a part of the program for a long term. Like that, I mean,
I don't think
I
he'd
do
get
not see
bored.
it being no,
Really?
because he gets to fly with minimal risk and be fun and crazy and teach other people to be fun and crazy. He gets to make connections with people, which is what he clearly appreciates doing. He gets to be with the person he loves. He's not a character that we see crave violence.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's that. I will say, I meant to bring it up earlier. I do think the movie could have done more humanization aspect if we saw any of the other villain pilots, not pirates, faces. They make a point to make them
Mm,
faceless
yes,
villains. And
you're absolutely correct. The only thing we can see is the label of their country on their face, right?
yeah,
That's,
exactly. They
yeah.
have very tinted
Mm-hmm.
helmet goggles. And like I get it, but if we're going to make a point
Stormtroopers.
or if we know that an element of this movie is the human aspect, only some human. I would appreciate if they went a little bit further with that.
That's an excellent point, and it's definitely a part of like the military propaganda element of the film. So I agree. I hear you. And that's actually a personal pet peeve of mine. I do clock it in this film. We just haven't been talking about it.
Yeah, I'm
But
sorry.
like no, it's fine. Like it's one of the things we just hadn't hit on yet. And like for me, I don't like zombie stories because usually they're
Mm,
just an excuse to chop up human bodies without feeling bad about it. And a lot of other stories do this. Like I kind of give it a pass in kids' films for the most part
sure.
because like I don't really know if kids need to be grappling with the inherent awfulness of war at that scale. But when a fully adult human medium completely covers the faces of their extras in the army, and we don't really feel the pain of their lives lost at all. I do get critical of that. And we don't really have that in this film. So you're right. That is something to critique the film on.
I need to give it another watch, and I don't know if I can. I may
It's fine.
purely because I can acknowledge it's a cinematography or technological marvel and like the shit it did.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. I can definitely give it, but I don't know. I assume you will.
I do give it a will. Again, this is never going to make it on any of my top movie lists. Like when you ask what my favorite movie is, I'm not going to say Top Gun ever. But it is something that I enjoy watching and will watch again and like watching with people or would suggest that somebody watches. And I think
Oh,
it,
shit.
mm,
Then
mm,
recommend.
yeah, I would recommend this. I think maybe to your point, I think maybe this does take multiple watches to get. Like I've been watching this since I was a kid. It was never one of the films that I watched with nostalgia because I didn't see it until I was a little bit later, but I have watched it multiple times since then. So I'm pretty familiar with it, and I do think it took me a couple watches to understand it. I just wasn't like. in this conversation, it's becoming clear to me that that wasn't just because I was young. I was also maybe it takes a couple of watches to really know the story. One of the things I was noticing in this watch through is that there are a ton of narrative parallels from beginning to end, and I don't think you can clock that as easily the first time you watch it. So all that to say, I do recommend it. Maybe if you don't get it the first time, watch twice and see if it works for you that time. But I recommend it.
This is gonna be one that I have to withhold judgment. See, well, nor not away.
The porpoise.
Yeah, and since I need to maybe follow your recommendation and not.
I mean, you can say that you think it's a bad film right now and then
But
change your
see,
mind
that's
later.
that's the
No one's gonna
thing.
hold you to
But
it.
that's the thing, though, is I don't know fully if I could say it's a bad film because it's
Hmm.
just, and I think where where my issue is, I feel like it's not just fun and actiony when it's in the sky. The in the sky stuff takes so much effort, and
Hmm.
so much goes into it. I don't feel the same amount of care is put into the stuff that's not on when it's not in the air, on the ground. I do not feel it's the same amount of care. I need to rewatch again. It wasn't just that I was waiting for it to be fun and fast. It's like you can feel more the, I don't even know, wave of work that goes in
Mm.
stuff. Um, so at the moment, I will. I'm intrigued to
Yeah.
watch this up with it in such a way. I can't imagine what the fun aerial cinematography.
I've only seen that one once. But my recollection of it was that it was a perfect sequel in the sense that it it matches Top Gun like toe for toe, like tit for tat. It's not necessarily like something that massively improves on the franchise. It's not something that tanks the franchise. It is right what you would expect it would be, with I think the improvement that you would expect from the time away from the franchise. So it's like maybe you would technically rank it slightly higher than the first one just because technology has come far enough and they do a good job with the story, so nothing is lost in the story. Only the only thing that changes is the improvement in visuals. Um, but I don't know. I don't know if that's fair to the original Top Gun to say that, right? So it's yeah.
I will be excited to watch
Mhm.
that. We're not doing that for this marathon clearly because it's the 80s,
Not
but
the
I will
80s.
watch that. I will. I'm excited to watch the sequel. I will say. Last little bit.
Okay.
You happen to know pick name or is it a sign?
It is something that naturally happens when you get with your first flight crew.
Cool.
They'll pick a nickname for you and then it'll stick.
I've always wanted.
Hmm. Yeah.
I would kind of hope it wasn't all the
Well,
other.
and
Be
that's
cool.
actually you've heard me talk about this. I like it when my nickname is picked for me because I want it to reflect the relationship that I have with the person who uses it.
Yeah,
That's what the situation with the call signs. Like the people who know you in your job pick a name for you based off how you act in that job, or just a really embarrassing story that happens a couple of times.
that's usually
So
if I get one. I just it makes me wonder
yeah,
what is what is said or told that warrants. Ooh, that's
he's probably
cool.
just really hairy.
Well, they call him Sasquatch. You got to do something cool.
Maybe Sasquatch is really hard to say on radio.
Fine. Vipers are really. Anyway, sorry. I just
Viper's good.
that might be my favorite part. It's just the cool code names. Um,
There's a lot of cool about this film. The constant sunglasses, the
I do like
jackets,
avian.
the yeah. I
Love
like
it.
the jackets. They're every jacket they wear with all the patches, the leather, the bomber jacket. Like it's a good look.
I did okay. I couldn't help but
Hmm.
wonder. This might just be my ignorance, because could care, but you're the best of the best pilots in the not, dare I ask, the Air Force.
Yeah, this is actually, from what I understand, kind of a real thing. Like things might have changed since the 80s, but the naval Air Force is really powerful because um, well, it's a complicated mess of things. The main thing is the Navy kind of developed what it is today when World War II Pacific side of the war was happening. And they needed to organize how to get planes over to Japan to fight in that war. And there's nowhere for them to fuel over there. They've always had fuel spots over in Europe. So planes would have to fuel up on carriers. So the Navy developed like a flight division, and they end up being really good pilots because only the best of the Navy get into that, like, space, and they have to do crazier tricks is what I understand. Like they don't get a full runway, they have to land on a carrier. So it's sort of like a really specialized group of pilots that do have sort of like unique and impressive skill set.
I
Whereas the Air
can't.
Force tends to be more general, and the Air Force tends to be more nerdy. Like they're
Uh,
very intelligent. They tend to be the sort of like
hey,
strategists
I
or
know
whatever.
that from
But
experience because my dad's a
yeah.
fucking dweeb, and that was his whole thing. But
So like Air Force, as much as the title would suggest that they'd have really sick pilots, in reality they tend to be the drone flyers where
uh,
they know all of the arcs and the
and
curves and
it's
the
just
math and whatnot.
so
But
funny to
yeah.
think like the dick measuring contest of like who's got the best pilots. Weirdly, not the guys that work in the planes, the boat boys. They have the best pilots. Ha 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 ha. Semper Fi.
I'm sure if anyone ever listens to this,
No,
they're
they
going to be
won't.
like, wow, the Air Force hates her. But that's kind of the takeaway that I get from it. I mean, obviously, the Air Force has some very impressive pilots and planes and all that. But the Navy having a competitive, smaller unit is also a very real thing in the US military.
Right on. Some if they ever listen, they'll just be annoyed that I said Semper Fi when that's. Anyway, well, that's us. Good stuff. What's next week?
Mm-hmm. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
totally different vibe.
Are you
And
sure? He's pretty maverick.
yeah, better about
And
it.
sunglasses are a big thing.
True. I'm excited. All right. Goodbye,
No, it'll
everybody.
be good. Bye.